This winter, the European football community let out a collective groan after Juventus signed the Fiorentina sensation Dusan Vlahovic. It was an entirely predictable move, landing the old lady one of the most talented forwards in Serie A and weakening their rivals in the process. The transfer could end up netting Fiorentina a massive €81.6 million. But the deafening jeers and banners that accompanied Vlahovic's return to La Viola in a recent Coppa Italia clash made it clear the fans were not impressed. After all, this isn't the first time they've lost their talisman to the Bianconeri. Federico Chiesa and Federico Bernardeschi both followed the same path to Turin, along with Roberto Baggio in 1990. That record-breaking transfer proved so unpopular in Florence it triggered a violent two-day riot, forcing the club's president Flavio Pontello to lock himself in the Stadio Artemio Franchi. Fiorentina aren't the only Italian club to be raided by Juventus. In recent years, they've picked up Meret Demiral and Manuel Locatelli from Sassuolo, while Genoa have sold them 7 separate players in the past decade. And there are countless other examples. Which begs the question, why do Juve's rivals continuously sell them their best players? Is this unique to the Italian way of doing business, or are Juventus simply too big to turn down? In this week's Eurofootball Daily Explained, we decided to find out. The Italian transfer market, known as the Calcio Mercato, is a world like no other. According to Sky Sports' Gianluca Di Marzio, it's a scene highly characterised by instinct and impulsiveness rather than careful assessment. He recently told Forbes, the paradox which only happens in Italy is that there are deals that are closed on the last transfer day that are born on the last transfer day. As the deadline looms, club officials, players and agents alike flock to the hotels in Milan to talk business over a coffee. All types of transfer are on the table, from swap deals to loans to co-ownership, the latter only being banned in 2015 after the Italian Football Association ruled the practice was atypical to the rest of Europe. Italian sides are busy in the market too. Although Serie A cannot compare to England in terms of spending, according to Transfermarkt, this year alone 1,077 separate transfers have taken place in the division, a whole 298 more than in the Premier League. It's a trend that repeats itself every year. Italian football is also a world dominated by agents. As of 2017, the CIES Football Observatory reported that there were 730 official licensed agents in Italy, 150 more than in Spain, and around 30% of all agents in Europe. With their own agendas to fulfill, this only adds to the drama and activity in the transfer market that is eagerly consumed by Italy's numerous dedicated sports newspapers and radio stations. This all begins to paint a picture of an internal market that does not necessarily abide by the same principles to its neighbours. It's often been said that owners in Italy are far more concerned with selling to the highest bidder over who they are selling to. Evidence for this comes from Baggio's infamous move to Juve, with Il Divino Cordino later implying he was pushed into the transfer by Fiorentina's president rather than having a personal desire to leave. And the historic transfer business between Serie A's biggest sides reflects a market less constrained by rivalries and emotions. Just take the dealings between Inter Milan and Juventus over the years. Fabio Cannavaro, Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Patrick Vieira are just 3 examples of players who swapped for either club close to their prime, while Edgar Davids, Lucio and the 1990s World Cup star Salvatore Schillaci also made the move. Andrea Pirlo represented both Milan clubs and Juventus in his career, and last summer Hakan Çalhanoğlu switched from the red to the blue side of San Siro. The Turk became the 27th player to represent both teams since 1995, further highlighting a culture where the needs of the players and clubs comes first. That's not to say this attitude applies to everyone. Pedro's move from Roma to Lazio was the first cross-city transfer between the pair in 40 years, but elsewhere on the continent you will rarely see dealings between big rivals to the same degree. For example, no player has transferred directly between Liverpool and Manchester United since Phil Chisnell in 1964, while it's never happened before between Celtic and Rangers. Even in Germany, where traditional rivals are more cooperative, there have been just 9 examples of Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich doing business since 2004, and Mats Hummels makes up 3 of those. Dortmund famously even refused to sell them the centre-half Thomas Helmer in the late 80s. In an act of defiance, he was sent to Lyon, only for the French side to ruin their plan by selling him to De Ruyten 3 months later. Clearly in Italy, if a deal makes sense, it may happen, irrelevant of the clubs involved or the backlash from the fans. And for a team like Juventus, the major player in the Azzurri domestic scene, these attitudes and practices have created an environment where they can execute their transfer strategy almost at will. So how did Juventus stride out on their own as the main attraction for selling clubs and young talent? Historically, they've always been Italy's most successful club, with 34 league titles to the name, while they've consistently been at the forefront of big business in Europe. In total, they've broken the transfer world record 5 times, a feat they share with Real Madrid, while they've paid out the top 5 transfer fees in Serie A history. This alone supplies an obvious example of why players want to join Juventus. But the decline of their main economic rivals in Milan, plus the Bianconeri's successful commercial growth in the modern era, helps explain how they've been able to tighten their grip on the country's best prospects. In 2006, Juventus were relegated to Serie B for the first time as punishment for their role in the Calciopoli match-fixing scandal. This could have spelled disaster and their entire board resigned. But instead, they ushered in a new wave of astute directors who set to work streamlining and modernising the club from the bottom up. By 2012, they were champions of Italy once more, triggering a run of 9 straight Scudettis and 2 trips to the Champions League final. Meanwhile, years of overspending in the wake of the scandal, plus Italy's struggling national economy, caused the once affluent Inter and AC Milan to stutter. According to ESPN, in 2010, Inter had the 4th highest average salary per player in Europe at around £3.62 million per annum, while the Rossoneri were 7th and Juventus placed 11th on just shy of £2.5 million. Fast forward to 2020 and that landscape has completely changed. The Bianconeri's average salary per player has fallen to a massive €7.68 million per year, now 39% more than Inter. Juventus are undisputedly the economic powerhouse in Italy on every front. The financial analyst Swiss Ramble shows how in 2020 Juve generated €194 million per year in commercial revenue, a whole €79 million more than Inter and nearly 5 times more than Napoli. Their shirt sponsorship deal with Jeep alone nets them €45 million per year, more than double what Inter Milan are pocketing from Socios.com, despite having recently axed their iconic 26-year relationship with the tyre manufacturer Pirelli in pursuit of more money. And Juventus benefit from being one of just 4 clubs in Serie A alongside Sassuolo, Udinese and Atalanta to own their own stadium. In fact, in Italy, 90% of professional stadiums are publicly owned, and this is critical for a number of reasons. Stadiums drive revenue, and it's no secret the country's lack of investment in new infrastructure has held them back. According to Forbes, between 2010 and 2020, 153 new stadiums were built in Europe, yet only 1% of those came in Italy. The result is several dilapidated stands with inadequate facilities that deliver a poor matchday experience. Juventus fell into this category until 2011 when they opened the now-named Allianz Stadium, freshly built on the site of its predecessor, the Stadio delle Alpi. Their capacity may have been reduced from an unfillable 67,000 to 41,500, but the addition of a club museum, megastore, plus restaurants and improved corporate facilities have paid huge dividends. For example, in 2018, Juventus were earning almost double what any other side in Italy were taking in matchday revenue at €56 million per year, showing it pays to own your own ground. This is all important as in football money talks, especially given the fact clubs in Italy have a habit of going bust. Just take Fiorentina, who filed for bankruptcy in 2002. Over the next 16 years, 153 Italian clubs refounded, merged with others, or simply disappeared. That includes Napoli in 2004, Parma in 2015, and then Bari in 2018. Today, the financial pressures are no different. In 2020-21, Inter Milan recorded a net loss of €245.6 million, the highest ever for an Italian side. While in January, their chief executive, Giuseppe Morata, described Italian football as a system on the edge of an abyss, the league in danger of insolvency in the post-pandemic landscape. With money tight throughout the football pyramid, a stable and well-run giant like Juventus can be a lifeline for clubs desperate for cash. This has always been the case and will continue to be so. Combined with their historic success, modern infrastructure and the unique national approach to doing business, it's no wonder the many agents of Italian football push their clients towards the old lady. The influx of foreign owners and investment may challenge that status quo soon, but as the Vlahovic deal proves, for now the wealth and glamour of Juventus is simply too hard to resist. So that was our take on why Italian clubs often hand Juventus their best young talent. What do you make of this? Let me know in the comments down below. This was edited by James Wayne, so give him a like in the comments too. Make sure you're subscribed to Euro Football Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss one of our videos, and we'll see you soon.